There is that splash of cold water again. I do not think it would be amiss at this time to mention that 2 weeks from today, I will finally be 92, really. I've been saying I was 92 for about 6 months now because it was past the mid 6 month line. But now I will be really 92 years old. Do you know who I am? I'm Dorothy Wilhelm. That was not a rhetorical question. I just wondered if you knew. I have an exciting program for you today. This is the Swimming Upstream Radio Show, in which I do a stream of consciousness kind of thing. But I want to introduce my co-hosts today. Ray Miller Still is hiding. Hello, Ray Miller.
Hello.
Very cheery RMS. And on the other hand, Ray is a millennial, right?
Yep.
And on the other hand, there is Jason, who doesn't care. He doesn't give a serious thought as to what his generation is. What did you think it was, Jason?
I'm a Generation X. So.
And 2 years into the Oregon Trail one.
Yeah, I'm kind of on the cusp. I'm right there by the Oregon Trail generation, but I'm a little older than them. So
a little bit. And I, of course, am a member of the silent generation. And as everyone says, you can't possibly be because you've never been silent. See, he's just sitting here shaking his head. Never been silent a moment in your life. This is very true. I fear dead air more than anything. But my generation didn't make a fuss. I did, but they didn't. So anyway, we like to get together. We pretty much like to get together every month or so and talk about issues of concern to our various generations. Actually, we don't do anything that serious. We kind of try to have some fun. And Ray, I especially thought of you when I read an article in a nameless local paper.
Wasn't mine.
That says Seattle is the nation's millennial capital. Gen Z, not so much. What do you got any thoughts to go with that one?
Yes. Seattle has an extremely robust, obviously, tech world, but also healthcare. We got some of the leading healthcare organizations in the world here. And those are the top 2 millennial job sectors that my generation is a part of. So it makes a lot of sense that we would move here to be a part of those 2 sectors. So that's one thought that I had. A second thought is that in this survey, which just to throw out some numbers, millennials, there's more than 1.4 million millennials in Seattle, as opposed to the 755,000 Gen Z ages 18 to 29. But the study does point out that only adults were surveyed, and there are Gen Z members younger than 18. So we are missing some numbers, I'm sure, not a whole lot. The other thing I'm thinking of is that millennials are having kids at a much older age.
Yeah.
So these Gen Zers, they can't move anywhere. These younger Gen Zers, so they're stuck here because they're not old enough to move. But we just also had them later, and we had them less. So that does explain why that has happened. Now I'm actually curious here. I'm going to Google this. What job sectors are most common for Gen Z? Well, okay. So
Instagrammer, TikTok star. Is that where we're going?
So I'm reading from the interview guys that finance, government, and manufacturing are experiencing a renaissance as Gen Z recognizes their stable, those factors, those job sectors stability. Everyone's going to need finance. Everyone's going to need government, no matter how limited, and everyone's going to need manufacturing. So that might explain why the older ones are moving out of an area where we don't really produce a lot of things.
That's interesting. And I have a question for both of you, and maybe even me. What's the advantage of your generation? What have you got? What's your? I have a little friend. She's been with me on the show occasionally, and she's 98, and she has a superpower. And she says her superpower is she's nosy, and this makes it. She wants to know what's going on, and this is what gives her strength. So for Gen Z, what do you think your superpower is?
For neither of us are Gen Z.
No,
Gen X.
I mean millennial. You can't listen to me.
Name one good thing about our generation.
Or powerful.
I
maniacally over here. I don't know.
Ooh, I'm really going to think about that as we continue this. So ask me at the end, and I'm going to try to come up with something resembling an actual answer.
Okay, remember to ask him at the end if I don't. Jason, what is your generation's superpower?
So I think Gen X's superpower is just independence and stubbornness. I mean, we were the drink from the hose generation. Our parents locked us out of the house and told us not to come home till dark. We figured out how to fend for ourselves. We don't need a whole lot of hand holding because we were under parented as opposed to over parented, which is, I think, something that's a lot more common in millennials and Gen Zers. I would say, Ray, I'll throw this out there from my perspective as a Gen Xer. I think millennials are much more socially aware. The whole woke movement came about because of millennials.
Yeah.
And whereas Gen X has a tendency to be a little gruff and insensitive, I think millennials are the opposite. And I would, from a parenting standpoint, I think my kids who are more Gen Yers, I think that millennials and Gen Z and Gen Y folks were over-parented, and everybody got the participation trophies. Nobody learned how to lose. So everything has to be equitable. Everything has to be fair. And I'm not saying that's good or bad. I'm just saying it's very different, because when I was a kid, if you came in second place, you went home crying because you came in second place. And that didn't happen with your all's generations.
You clearly never saw me race.
An interesting thing, though, Jason, and now which one are you? Gen X?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. What's really interesting to me is we had the same experiences as children, but it came out differently because we had the same. The mother fed us. Now there were often chores to do, but once you were through, you were out, and you did not come back until they asked you, and they never asked you.
Well, I think that the key difference, though, obviously, is your generation didn't have quite the technology and the entertainment options that my generation had. And y'all had to deal with war and the Depression, and we didn't. We were very coddled, other than our parents. Our parents didn't coddle us at all, but the world did. So that's a very different experience, I think.
That's interesting. And it's true. I think for us, what I think was good about both generations, not so sure about Ray's, is that we had to learn how to fix things, do things, achieve things ourselves. And you were absolutely right. You never came in second, never. And you knew how to fix things. You knew how, even girls. When my daddy left for work, he worked on the railroad, and he left for work, and he put a mark on the wall of the woodshed, and I was to pile wood to that I was to pile wood to that level. That was pretty scary because I still remember it, But I think there were obvious similarities. I see you raising your hand, young man.
Well, I did want to interject about fixing things, because we can also fix things. It is very possible, and we do it all the time. It's just not the same things you used to fix. For example, my wife quilts. She quilts, she repairs my clothing, she sews, she crochets, and she's also very handy with tools. Whereas I don't know, she took auto class, so she knows how to fix those things. Nice. But I have friends that don't necessarily do those things, but they cosplay. So they put together their costumes, and they know exactly how to make and fix those costumes. They just don't apply those skills elsewhere in their lives. Which they should, because you know, we all got to wear clothes, so we might as well make them last. But yeah, I feel like we do fix things. It's just that we fix different things, and a lot of what we also fix is technology. And kind of to your point, and now that I have an answer, I won't have to share it at the end. We're technologically adaptable. We grew up with the starting of the. We grew up when the internet had grown up. So we didn't start with it, but we were definitely there when it was starting to really take off. And a lot of the technology we have now is very much based on the technology we grew up with. So where other generations can feel really behind on how to use tech, we can be adaptable because we started off with all this booming technology, and we know how fast it can take off. And we can, even if we're obviously going to fall behind a little bit, as our generations, further generations get further ahead, I think that we'll be able to mostly keep up with them, and that would be a difference in generations that we will be able to maintain, as opposed to, Jason, how technologically literate are you? You run a podcast, but I think that you're going to be a bit of an outlier on that one. Dorothy?
I'm definitely an outlier in Gen X. I'm much more technologically adept than most of my peers.
Me too.
But because I've made it a career, that's what I do. So,
and Dorothy, you've done this podcast for forever, and you were in broadcasting on a TV. That's going to give you some skills as well. So I feel like that's something we all three, not as our cohorts, but as individuals, were able to share similar experiences with. But that's definitely unusual.
Yeah, that's definitely true. And when I was thinking of it, I was more thinking of what childhood. I'm as a mother of 6. I'm always wondering what did we do? And I'm thinking, well, did we learn things, or did they learn things as children that carry through? Because it's fun, and you'll notice this as you see them grow up. Oh, I know just how that happened. I know just,
Well, maybe to take it to Jason's thing, that millennials were always getting participation trophies, that could definitely be a factor into why we were so strong on equality and diversity. Like, sure, we were coddled in our personal lives, but we see the world and how unfair it actually is, and we want to fix that. Maybe there's a positive aspect of having been given participation trophies.
Absolutely.
I never was. Yeah. I got ribbons that were 2nd place, 3rd place, and if there was nothing after that, you wouldn't get anything.
But you know that there were teachers. My youngest, I think it was my youngest daughter. I can't keep them straight. But anyway, and everybody was getting all trophies and ribbons and everything. And Mr. Andres had a kite flying contest. You could not buy the kite. You had to make this. These kids are in, I think, the 4th grade, 3rd or 4th grade, and they had to make the kite themselves, and they had to fly it, or at least try, And so Gina's ribbon was most attempts to put the kite in the air. And so he gave them each, I thought, an ideal situation. He recognized each effort, for what it was, even if it didn't.
And that's not bad. Yeah, I mean, I like that. And to be fair, we didn't come up with the idea of participation trophies. We've been giving out, what are they called? Lifetime Achievement Awards to actors for years. And what are those if not participation trophies? Because we haven't figured out any actual award to give to you.
Anybody got any one thing that either you think was absolutely spot on and has prepared you for your whole entire life, or you're a little bit worried about what it did to you? Anything like that?
Mine's the same one. Mine's, I think being, left alone and defend for myself and being fiercely independent has been a great benefit to my career, because I'm very resourceful and resilient, and I can, make my own way in the world. But I also think it's made me, sort of stubborn and single-minded. And, I don't like to collaborate and negotiate with people. I like to do it my way, and I don't like to do it other ways. So it's a little bit of good, a little bit of bad. It's worked out fine, but I think that Gen X, latchkey kid almost kind of approach has good and bad to it.
For me, it's like growing up with the technology I did and being super curious about that. I learned through pushing buttons. And I continue to learn that way. I'm not afraid to push a button and to push the wrong button. The chance of it actually breaking, of me actually screwing the thing up, are extremely limited. I might do something I will have to learn how to fix, which happened 75% of the time. But yeah, my grandma, which is your age, Dorothy, just always asked me, how are you so good at all this tech stuff? I'm like, I press all the buttons. I will Google what does this setting do and how do I use it? And I apply that to almost all aspects of life. I try not to push too many buttons for the relationships, but when it comes to technology or even my writing, like, let's just try new things, because the chances of me really breaking something are pretty slim.
I don't know. I've done it. But yeah, I really feel like that's one of the things it's terrific that I learned how to do this. There's a lot I can't do. I'm going to be calling you forever now, Ray.
That's fine. I'd love to have another grandma. Both of mine are dead.
That is good to know. I was thinking, though, when I was listening to both of you, is that our favorite thing to do with our children when they misbehaved was to put them in there. We just lived for the time that we could send them to their rooms, because they didn't have no TV, no radio. It was just their room, and they had to learn to do something. I mean, we didn't say learn to do something, but if they were going to get tired of sitting on their bed after a while, then they were going to. And it worked really well, because they all developed then their own style and their own way of doing things. But I think
I've never had to send my kid to his room.
But you will.
Yeah, probably.
And if you don't, you'll be sorry you didn't.
Yeah.
If you want to give them time, the point of it was that they have time to develop things, that they have time to think about things and work out how to do stuff. Remember, I have just in my family, I have 3 commanders and a retired admiral. What did you want? But anyway, so we learn how to do these different things now, and we did want to talk about New Year's traditions and not so much resolutions. But does anybody or everybody have a wind-up thought first on the generational thing, Gen Z, or have we already done that? Sometimes that happens.
It's a new tradition for us. But we feel, my family and others that we have down here feel very important that the kids be included in what the adults are doing.
Yes.
And I kind of don't like the idea of a kids' table. Now, I enjoy being at the kids' table, and in many ways, when I got a little bit older, I still wanted to be at the kids' table. But I think I would have been. I think ultimately I would have preferred to have been interspersed with the adults, because I also was a kid who really liked to talk to the adults, and since I was the oldest at the table, but so for like the midnight hits, the kids get little plastic champagne flutes and they'll cheers, and some of the sparkling water or sparkling juice will go everywhere. But I never did that with my parents. I was, like, I don't remember doing anything like that. To be fair, they never did in New Year's much anyway. We never went out to go see the ball drop or the fireworks. We would just do that at TV. I don't think they ever had champagne. But I didn't really feel like there was much of anything for me to be included with. But I want to make sure that my kids and his friends feel like, oh, parents pay attention to us. Parents want us to be included. And I think that that's going to be an important thing moving forward, because that's how you get your teenagers to keep talking with you. That's how they're going to approach you, because they know that you've been paying attention. There's groundwork, and just because you can lead a horse to water, can't make him drink. But if I don't lead the horse to water.
Well, an interesting thing there is that the children's table, no, I don't like it either. It's a comparatively new thing. In the olden days, the kids sat at the big table, but as with modern times, there are no big tables.
Jason, did you have a kids' table? Were you at the kids' table? Because they just didn't want you. Okay.
The larger, family gatherings holidays and whatnot, for sure. We definitely had a kids table.
Well, we didn't.
Sounds like you're the unusual one, Dorothy.
We did have it's a little while ago. We did have a chair for the Christ child if he should come by.
Oh, that's adorable.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. And what would practically happen, that was what the chair was for, but a neighbor or someone would come by. That way you always had a chair for that neighbor. People could always feel welcomed. So I think that was nice.
I love that. That's great.
We managed to pretty well talk our way through the morning, but so I wanted to get from each of you. Actually, it was pretty good, I think. What about, do you have any New Year's traditions, or did your family that you could share? Jason, I'm going to let you start just because you never get to start.
Sure. Our New Year's Eve tradition was always about right after dinner time, we would watch movies. So we would pick out 2 or 3 movies. And of course, back in the day, we would go to the video store and rent movies. But in latter years, it was more streaming situations. But we would rent, watch a couple of movies. And then if we were still awake when midnight hit, we would turn on the TV and watch the ball drop. But that was never the point of the evening. The point was just to hang out and watch movies and enjoy movie night, have some popcorn. And that was kind of our New Year's Eve thing.
And how about you, Ray?
We do the same thing every year. It's The Apartment. We watch the old black and white The Apartment because it's one of Catherine's favorite movies, and it's a New Year's movie. Yeah. But we get dressed up. We're sitting on the couch, but I'm in a dress shirt and blazer and whatever fancy pants can fit me when I'm sitting down. There are several I can wear standing, so I hope it's a standing party. Trying to lose some weight, but yes, no, we get dressed up and we do that. And I make my own popcorn. I don't buy the stuff, and I've gotten really, really good at making my own popcorn. Would love to share the recipe with you guys, maybe on a future one where we just talk about what foods we make and why we make
it. It's a great idea. Yeah, I'd love that. That would be really. I can almost do that here even. But so that's a wonderful tradition. I like that. Both of those sound doable too, And I'm gonna say a word or 3 about what if this is a hard holiday for you. What I'm remembering particularly after my husband died, it was 3 years at least, because we couldn't, maybe others can, but we could not. We tried the first year, we tried to do our regular traditions, and we simply couldn't. It just couldn't be done. The next year, we tried going out to dinner and having, being in a new place seemed sensible. That didn't work out. So the third year, we tried going out and getting pizza and watching movies. And we watched Raiders of the Lost Ark. And we found that to be a wonderful movie for those in sorrow. And so sometimes you have to, I guess my point would be, you have to find your own holiday, kind of have to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But new traditions are not bad traditions. And new traditions become old traditions. So I think you had a great lesson there, which is try again. Just because it didn't work the first or the second time does not mean the third thing that you're going to try. Just don't do the same thing over and over.
Well, at first we thought we felt like we did want to do it, but it just wasn't possible. And all it did was say, you guys are broken. And, so to make our own way was actually a good and kind of fun thing. Yeah. And, so I guess I'm saying to people, don't be afraid. I think you said that first, but oh, well, don't be afraid to try something new.
I would add to this that because for some people who have a tragedy happen to them around a holiday might be alone. You still had your kids to be with, but if you're older, right. The chances are that your friend group has shrunk, especially for men. But I feel like you need to just have the guts to reach out to a friend and ask, hey, I'm having a hard time. Can I join you for this holiday? Yeah. And that's a hard thing to do, especially, again, for men. So if you are a single dude and you don't have a lot of friends, and you don't know what to do now that this has all happened, reach out to them and just tell them, I'm having a hard time. Because I feel like at that point, like, yeah, you are kind of inviting yourself to a party, but you're giving them the, you're like,
the worst that can happen is they'll say, golly, we don't have any chairs. But most people will be happy to have you.
Most people will be very happy to have you. Yes.
So that's a good New Year's tradition to start. And I guess then one thing more that goes with that is that, over the last 3 years since we've met you all, I have Parkinson's, and it's getting hard for me to walk. And I often have to ask people if I'm out on the street or here in the building, can I just put my hand on your arm, because that'll steady me, and then we can walk. And do you know, nobody? I don't know these people. Nobody has ever said no or pulled away or anything. Right. So don't be afraid to ask. Yeah. It's as we say, our slogan, in case you didn't know what our slogan was, is that, the world is full of terrific people doing wonderful things, and you'll never meet them on the 6 o'clock news. So, so I think we must be out of time. It doesn't say that, but I think we must. Anyway, so this is our friend Ray. What if they wanted to get in touch with you, Ray? How would they do it?
Raymond.still@courierherald.com.
.still, STILL.
Yeah, it's my bachelor name. I know.
I know. It's all right. And Jason, darling, what is or do you want to be got in touch with?
Sure. JasonFalls.com. I'm all over the internet.
And you are all over the internet. I've noticed that. and this is Dorothy at itsnevertoolate.com. I have nothing to lose. So anyway, join us again next month. I'm sure it will make every bit as much sense as this one did. Happy New Year, y'all.